time for another street along, and I'm really excited about this project. It is a sweater. I'm warning you, it's a fingering weight sweater, so it's going to be an excellent good time. Luckily we picked a project that isn't full of lace and all kinds of stuff, so it'll be a nice relaxing knit. But this sweater is called the Knife Grinder's Daughter, and it is by Karen Folkerth, and it is just a very loose fitted, easy to wear piece. The fingering makes it so great because then you don't have to just save it for the winter time. You can wear it in spring and fall too. I am very much looking forward to making my own.
The yarn I have chosen here is Soft Squish by Independent Street Yarns, and it is a very lovely fingering weight yarn with a touch of nylon, so it wears super well, perfect for this project. This color is called Winter Trees. Now, one thing I want to mention really quickly is at some point in this video, I'm going to demonstrate to you how to alternate skeins. If you look at this photo of the yarn again, you'll see that the colorways are just a hair different, and we don't want any color blocking to happen. So I'm actually going to, once you get into the round, you can knit in the round, put down one skein and pick up the other skein or ball. It'll be balled at that point, and then keep working that way. So I'm going to be doing that so that I don't get any weird color blocking. For this particular project, Catherine really doesn't say what cast on you should use, but I'm a huge fan of the tubular cast on in rib. Now, normally you only use a tubular cast on in rib for a 1x1 cast on. However, you can very easily rearrange the stitches on your needle to get a 2x2 rib, which is exactly what we are going to do. If you want the tubular cast on in rib in great detail, please see my Craftsy class entitled 40 Ways to Cast On and Bind Off. We do it very slowly. We do it in both regular knitting and continental knitting, both right-handed and left-handed. So there'll be some detail here, but in this particular video, I'm just going to touch on a reminder on how to do that for those of you that already know how. Now, I already have the first part of my tubular cast on done, so let's see what that looks like. So if you look down here, this is the first part of the sweater, and oh my gosh, the cast on in tubular is just so nice and squishy, and I really just like the way it looks here. It also doesn't like you know, flutter out like some other cast-ons do. So let's talk a little bit about the tubular cast on in rib. When you cast on using the tubular cast on, your result will always be an odd number. Here's the reason why. It's a provisional cast on, so we're going to use some waste yarn. The very first setup row for the tubular cast on is a knit one, yarn over. So you repeat that all the way to the end. Well, at the end, you can't use a yarn over because you're at the end. There's nothing to hold it there, so you lose that. So you always end up with an odd number, okay? That being said, you have to take a look at the number of stitches your pattern calls for casting on. Let's say it's an even number, like 100. First of all, you're going to take that and you're going to divide it in half to make 50, and then you're going to add 1, 51. So our provisional cast on is going to contain 51 stitches. In this case, you're going to end up with 101 stitches. If you only do 50 in your provisional cast on, you will end up with 99. You'll be one short. So it's better to have one more than to be one short. So 100 stitches, cut that in half, that's 50, add 1, 51. That'll give us 101 stitches, and we can very easily, on our very first row of the pattern, do a knit two together and get rid of that extra stitch. Super easy. Now, if you are casting on an odd number of stitches, for example, 75 stitches, you cut that in half also, and that is 37.5, which of course we know we can't do, so you're just going to round up to 38, and that will give you the exact number of stitches you need, and you don't have to worry about it. So the first thing you want to do is find out exactly how many stitches you're going to cast on and do a little math and jot that stuff down. So now I am going to give you a quick summary for those of you who are already familiar with this cast on, exactly what the setup rows are like. So the first thing we have to do is cast on our stitches using the backwards loop with our provisional yarn. Now, this part of the pattern actually has you work back and forth. If you take a look at this photo of the project, you'll see that the front and back are split. So you're actually going to knit the front first, then you're going to knit the back, and then you'll join them in the round. So you can see here, I already have the front part of mine done, okay? So she says to work in 2x2 rib until your pattern is, until your cast on edge is 2 inches, okay? Easy enough, we've got that going on. So now she says to break the yarn, which I have done, and slide all of the stitches down onto the cable and just let them kind of hang out there. And now we're going to use, without turning it over, we're going to use this to cast on with. So I have a piece of waste yarn here. Now remember, when you're doing the tubular cast on, the first thing you need to do is to make a slip stitch. So we're just going to cross this over like here, and we're going to shove the long end through like this, and we're going to pull. Okay, so now using this needle, I'm going to put this on the end here, and I'm going to pull and tighten it up. And now, so that's stitch number 1. And now you're going to cast on half the number of stitches, plus 1 if that applies to you, onto your needle using the backwards loop. So I just like to swoop under, turn it, put it on, swoop under, turn it on, swoop under, just like that. Once you have the right number of backward loops on your needle, you are going to knit in the first stitch, and you're going to join your new yarn. And then you are going to knit 1, then you're going to perform a yarn over. Then you're going to knit 1, yarn over, all the way across to double the amount of stitches. Once you're done with that, be sure to count your stitches to make sure you have either the exact number of odd stitches that you need or the even number of stitches that you need plus 1. There are 4 setup rows here. The first one starts with a slip one with yarn in front. Then you're going to move the yarn to the back, and then you're going to knit 1. Then you're going to move the yarn back to the front, and you're going to slip 1, and then again move it to the back and knit. You're going to do this all the way across. Then you're going to end with a slip 1 with yarn in front, turn it around, and it's time for row 2. This time row 2 is going to start with a knit 1. Then you're going to do a slip 1 with yarn in front. So essentially you are knitting the knits and slipping the purls in this case. All right, row 3 is another slip 1 with yarn in front as your start, and then a knit 1. And again, you're going to alternate those all the way across. Finally, row 4 now starts with a knit 1 and then goes to a slip 1 with a yarn in front. Again, you're going to perform this row all the way across to the end. Now we're going to go ahead and pick out our waste yarn. You can also cut it, but I like to pick it out so that I can reuse the waste yarn for something else. Now be careful, there might be a loose loop on the very end of your cast on, so if you encounter that, just take your tail and slip it through it to secure it. And there you have it, a beautiful tubular cast on.
Now that your cast on is all completed, it's time to get into the pattern. Before we start the knit 2, purl 2 of the pattern, we need to rearrange the stitches. So if you look at the cast on you've done, I'm just going to pull it apart here. You can see that there's a purl here. Even though these are like slips, like, let's see, I'm gonna grab this thing. So this stitch right here is a purl, and even though this one was a slip, it's a knit. So we've got a purl and a knit and a purl and a knit. So they're pretty easy to identify, right? So that's not a problem. All right, so we're going to do a knit 2, purl 2 rib. So we need these first 2 stitches to be knits, okay? Now this first stitch is a purl, and this is a knit, and this is a purl, and this is a knit. So you're going to need a little tool like this. It could be another double-pointed needle would be fine. I'm going to slip this purl off of here because I want to hold this back here. So I'm just going to hold it here. And I'm just going to grab the other end of my needle here. Okay, so this is the other end of my circular needle. And I am going to slip this knit stitch off of this needle and onto this needle. Okay, just like that. Now I'm going to hold that. Here's another purl back here. So I'm going to grab this purl, and I'm going to very carefully slip it off the end, and I'm going to hold both of those in the back, and now I'm going to grab this next knit. All right, so now we've got 2 knits right together, and now I'm just going to take these 2 purls off of this pink holder, just like this. We're going to slide that out of there. All right, so now we've got a knit and a knit and a purl and a purl. So I'm going to keep going in this fashion. This next one's a purl, so I'm going to grab it and I'm just going to hold it back here. Oopsies, I slid all the way out of everything. Let me put these back on. All right, so I'm holding that one back there, and now I'm going to take this knit and I'm going to slide it over here, and we'll push that in so we don't lose it. This next one that's on the needle is a purl, so I'm going to add it with the other purl on the pink holder. So we're going to slide it off and we're going to hold it back there. And then this next one is a knit, so I'm going to grab this one and put it with this other knit. And now I'm going to take the 2 off of this pink holder and I'm going to put them over here. So now we've got, let's see, a knit, a purl, a knit, a purl, a purl. Now, you'll notice that it's not doing anything to your gorgeous rounded cast on. Because of the way you slipped the stitches, it allows these stitches, if I hold it this way, it allows you to put the knits here and the purls here and then shift them back and forth and then reshuffle them very easily. So you're going to go all the way around to and rearrange these stitches until you get to the end. Now, remember back here at the very end, we have some very odd, we have an odd number, okay? So once you get back to here, you're just going to do, you're going to rearrange them. So you've got a knit 2, purl 2, knit 2, purl 2, and then you'll have 1 extra, which is completely fine because we are expecting to have an odd number. So once you're done rearranging your stitches, I want you to go ahead and pass them all the way back over here. Please remember that as you're passing them, your live yarn is still here. So you're going to have to pass all these stitches over to here. Then you're going to have to turn around and pass them all back. Now, if you're doing this first part right here, which of course I have rushed ahead and already done, then you can just slide them around the loop to start at the beginning again. But when you do your second side, which is the back, then you'll have to pass them all back again. Now, what is going to happen is you are going to work in knit 2, purl 2. Let's see, the pattern says for 4 inches. So you can see that this one is 2 inches. I've already done the front, that's 2 inches. I've started the back, and I am going to knit back and forth, okay, here to there, to here to there. This guy is just going to hang out here and he's not going to do much of anything. He's your front. You're going to work this piece back and forth until it is 4 inches in length. Okay, so this one's 2 and this one's 4. Then the cool part about this is, let me see if I can kind of untangle this a little bit so you can see what's gonna happen. We are eventually going to slide this down to here,
and then we'll slide this up to meet this one. So you can see, if I kind of squish this on camera, that you're going to be joining this in the round, okay? So it's pretty easy. Once this is 4 inches and once this is 2 inches, then you can start working in the round, and you're just going to knit across here, and then you're going to knit right here. Now, along the way, it's going to ask you to place some markers, because on the side seam, there's going to be a really cool ribbing that runs up the side to make a side seam on both of those. So please make sure after you are knitting around, it'll say to cast on a couple stitches where you need to cast on stitches when you're joining in the round. It will also let you know where to place a marker so that you can do the ribbing. It'll outline how the ribbing is supposed to look that goes under the arms. The rest of it is just a straight knit, really, really easy. And it will have you continue in the round until the piece measures 14 inches tall, and I think that's from the front cast on edge. So the back is going to be a little longer because it's behind. So when you measure your body, make sure you're measuring from the shorter cast on edge. It should be 14 inches, and you'll notice you'll get a really nice ribbing on the side down there. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and jump ahead of you and get a few inches into the body, and I am going to show you how to use 2 different skeins to work in the round, exchanging them every other round so that you're using 2 skeins of yarn to do the body. When you do a hand dye, sometimes they look a little bit different, and it's a lot better if you just mix the 2 together. So I'm going to jump right into it. I'm going to get a few inches in, and then I'll meet you right back here to show you how to use 2 skeins to work in the round for the body. See you there.